The free speech movement was about students having the right to pass out literature, raise money, and recruit members to participate in social and political action on behalf of the causes that they believed in. So they had arrested him and brought a police car on campus to carry him away. And everybody sat down around the car. And then over the next 30 hours, the protest grew and grew, so there were several thousand people sitting around the car. And it was that event that really galvanized the campus. And people started asking, well, I believe in all these things too. Why aren't I getting involved in this? Why am I not standing up for justice? So on December 2nd, we moved into Sproul Hall. We did expect to get arrested. We definitely expected to get arrested. And we were surprised because we sat there and we sat there and we sat there and nobody came. But around 3 in the morning, we got word that the police had massed and were going to come in. It was outrageous to the faculty that the students had been arrested and that the police had been brought on campus. So at that point, the faculty really started organizing and eventually came out with a strong statement of support for the students.
Student rallies at the University of California at Berkeley over the past 2 months have become commonplace. But today's rally in front of Sproul Hall has taken on a different tone. Several thousand students have gathered for what has been billed as a victory celebration, a victory the students feel is assured as a result of yesterday's action by the Academic Senate. The first speaker, the leader of the free speech movement, Mario Savio.
It's been said that we've been revolutionaries and all this sort of thing. In a way, that's true. We've gone back to a traditional view of the university. The traditional view, the university is a community of scholars, of faculty and students, get together who, with complete honesty, who bring the hard light of free inquiry to bear upon important matters in the sciences, but also in the social sciences, the question of just, what ought to be, not just what is. Now, that traditional view of the university, that's the one that had been attacked by the revolutionaries, by those who, would make it into a kind of adjunct to industry. We're asking that there be no restrictions on the content of speech, save those provided by the courts. And that's an enormous amount of freedom. And people can say things within that area of freedom which are not responsible. And now that's, we've finally gotten into a position where we have to consider being responsible because, now we have the freedom within which to be responsible. And I'd like to say, at this time, I'm confident that the students and the faculty, the University of California, will exercise their freedom with the same responsibility they've shown in winning their freedom.
A terrifying night, campus police issuing a shelter-in-place order after college Republicans invited Milo Yiannopoulos to speak. Now behind me, this is a police generator that was knocked over and set on fire when these protests turned into a riot. Overnight mayhem on campus. The University of California, Berkeley erupting in flames as over 1,000 came out to protest an appearance by the self-described right-wing internet troll Milo Yiannopoulos.
We will not tolerate racism or sexism or hate crimes and violence. He's a fascist and Berkeley did not welcome him.
At least 6 people were injured, including this Trump supporter who was pepper sprayed. the university canceling the speech.
Hey, Milo, we shot you down!
Riot police even retreating to the building for safety. You can hear them urging the crowds to leave.
I think we have a right to say that we don't want him here. And
the standoff intensifying as protesters lit fireworks, police firing back.
It's going too far right now. This is uncalled for. This is not going to get no message across.
Yiannopoulos, an editor for Breitbart News and an avid supporter of President Trump, responding on Facebook, posting this video.
Because they're so threatened by the idea that a conservative speaker might be persuasive and interesting and funny and might persuade, might take some people with him. They just have to shut it down at all costs.
I stand for free speech. I stand against the radical left. There's a movement in this country by groups like By Any Means Necessary and Antifa to silence speech that they disagree with. They demonize and vilify and name call people to try to shut them down. They're trying to undermine our country, and I stand against them.
I know it's part of it's a publicity stunt because when he came on campus, he didn't bring a speaker. He didn't want his voice to be heard. He kind of just was talking intimately among his followers. Right. That kind of suggests to me that you're not here about free speech because you specifically have not made it to where your voice is going to be heard. They came, they showed the police, set a really large perimeter for a very small crowd. So that shows that they just wanted to make an appearance. It's really not about the free speech that they're claiming to have because no one can hear you. If you wanted that, you would at least brought a megaphone.
I want to stand up for free speech rights in America. Even though some of the things Milo says I do not agree with, I believe he has a right to speak freely. I don't know what's going on here. I believe he has a right to speak freely in America and not be attacked, or the people coming to the event needs to be attacked. That's abhorrent. That isn't the American way. And I'm here to stand against the Marxists and the Antifa movement going on here. It's a very real movement. It's a very dangerous movement. They're very violent people, and they're causing a lot of dismay in Berkeley. And we need to stand up for this and get this back to the home of free speech again and get it back peaceful assembly, bring all those things back to America again.
Our Constitution has more extensive protections for free speech than any other liberal democracy. Mm-hmm. And it protects hate speech. It does not protect speech that can be understood as an immediate incitement to violence. But it does protect hate speech. And I myself believe, although I understand that other people believe differently, that protecting people's rights to say abhorrent things is an important part of the protection of our right of free speech. But I understand that our students today, they grew up with instruction against bullying in the public schools. They understand what harassment is. They don't understand why it's not okay for them to say something in a classroom or in a dormitory that someone like Milo can come to campus and say in Zellerbach Auditorium.
I want to push you a little harder, though, in this, because the question is how does protecting Milo Yiannopoulos' right to engage in what I personally actually do think is fairly hateful speech, how does that protect my rights to free speech?
Well, the question is, who's the censor? So if you determine that someone has the right of determining what is hate speech and what is not hate speech, I believe you give a dangerous kind of authority to the government. And so someone that is going to censor Milo's right to engage in what we call hate speech today might call hate speech tomorrow something that is, for example, critical of Roy Moore. Mm-hmm. Or critical of the kind of bigotry that you see in some of our far right groups today.
So the danger is that one person's hate speech might be another person's valid criticism of somebody else. And since it's very hard to make the distinction, mm-hmm. therefore we have to say, even when we think that it looks like hate speech to us, we need to allow it to make sure we protect the right of the person who would have a valid criticism that others might think is hate speech.
That's exactly right.